what do you think that real estate agents should be doing in their business? Because I would love to see this as part of our program and our real success is taking them through the journey of you guys helping them to set their businesses up right.
Can help set up just for purposes of funding, but anything else, you need to actually have the right services in place. You need to have the right people and tap into their knowledge and wisdom and things like that. So one of the things about real estate, whether it's an investor or an agent, it doesn't matter because I feel like the mindset is very similar no matter what when it's real estate related, is that they're very good at doing a couple of things. And that's what they should focus on. That's what they should do.
Okay, here we are today. It's Maureen Kiely with Grit Media, and I am fortunate enough to have met this wonderful lady who actually lives in the greater Tampa area, like me, Amanda Webster, and she is the Chief Operating Officer for Fund&Grow. And we met out in Arizona, which is kind of weird how we went all the way to Arizona to meet when we're in the same area. But, I think the pandemic totally changed everybody's work. And I thought it was really exciting to get out and go to events these last couple of years. And so now it's like we're connecting, and that conference was really amazing. And you were one of the sponsors, so that was really great. Or the sponsor, I don't know what it was, but we're going to be talking about business, real estate, credit, how you should run your company in regards to overall funding. So I don't want to mess this up because Amanda's like the expert in this area. So Amanda, I would like you to tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing with the company, and how you guys got started. And I know you guys have funded like almost $2 billion now.
Yeah, we're knocking
Wow.
on 2 billion.
I know. Wow. That's a big well, you're going to have to get a lot of people to get on Google and get a lot of reviews. So tell us about your company and how you help businesses. And then we're going to kind of just talk about specific industries that you help. And then we'll kind of break that down in this podcast.
Absolutely. So like you said, Amanda Webster, COO of Fund&Grow, and Fund&Grow actually was born out of the crash. So back in 2007 and going into 2008, the founder and owner was part of a different company that was helping real estate investors through HELOCs. So he was kind of on the mortgage broker's side, but specifically for HELOCs for real estate investing. And everybody in that industry could see the writing on the wall. By late 2007, everyone knew what was happening and could see all the things that were aligning. So Ari Page, who's the founder and CEO of Fund&Grow, decided I need to find something else. I need to find something for my clients that can help them. And this company was born out of that. So he found business credit and then figured out how to use it specifically for real estate investing. That was how it started. And so we've been around for over 17 years. Like you said, we are knocking on that $2 billion amount of how much funding we received. We get on any month right now, we get an average of $20 to $25 million every month for our clients. And that is something that we are super proud of. And this is for anybody. We started for real estate investing and we've definitely kind of fine-tuned that. But Fund&Grow was on a mission to help entrepreneurs in general in understanding not only what business credit was, but how to utilize it to be able to start and fund and grow everything, which is kind of how our name came about, was, being able to fund and help grow every entrepreneur out there. So that was kind of how we started. And this is our second building. It started in Ari's living room, but now we're in our second building, and we are, like you said, north of Tampa, but we help all 50 states.
Okay. I was just recently watching a podcast for Tony Robbins, and he wrote a book on wealth, and he talked about It's a really great interview on YouTube, and he talked about how most little people, I'm going to call them, right? People, not the wealthy, the people that don't have aren't accredited investors, right? How difficult it is for them to get funding on any level of their businesses and stuff. So when I think about this and I think about what your company is doing, I'm a little bit into this. I'm going to have you use my company as a model so we can discuss what we need to do. And I'd like to start with just real estate investing first.
Yep.
And let's talk about what the process is that you guys do and how you help real estate investors.
So the first thing for real estate investing is understanding what business credit is to begin with, because that's usually the first place that I have to educate, because it is just something that not a lot of people understand. When they hear business credit, they're thinking about what I call corporate vendor credit. So they're thinking about like accounts that are with, Uline and Amazon and Home Depot, and they're thinking about like the Dun and Bradstreet and the Paydex side, but that's not what I'm talking about. What we specialize in is getting business credit on the EIN through major lenders. So through Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Truist, Amex, all of your big hitters in the, banking space, to be able to open up these lines. They're just like a business line of credit, but they're housed on a credit card. And the reason that, or the way we're able to do that and leverage for brand new or high risk like real estate investing. So we're able to take real estate investors through a journey of making sure their company is set up correctly, making sure their personal credit is correct. And the reason for that is we're going to leverage a lot of this stuff to be able to get around the requirement of having 2 years in business and $40,000 a month in revenue. Real estate is not stable. When you're in real estate investing and when you're in the real estate market, you don't have X amount of dollars every single month coming in. That's not the game. You will have one month where you might make $100,000, and then you might go 3 months with making nothing because you're too busy buying the next deals to get to that next marker. So that's the issue with real estate investing. So how do we work around it? Is we found this ability to get high limit revolving unsecured debt that you can leverage. So being able to purchase properties with it, being able to do the renovations with it, being able to purchase services, software, marketing, whatever you need to be able to continue to be a real estate investor. Where you're at in real estate investing will depend on what plan that we go with. So we have a very specialized one-on-one approach for the real estate investing world to be able to fund them through business credit. So it's not hurting their personal credit. They're not having to go through the red tape of getting an SBA loan. Those things are very difficult to get these days. But
Yeah.
also they're able to get these high limits. And then we teach them how to pull that money out because it is housed on a credit card. So sometimes there's like an extra step you have to do to get that money to that vendor or to that closing agent. So we have perfected that process. And we not only do we assist and get a lot of this done, we also teach our clients how to do this. So long term, they're able to continue to do it and continue to grow this type of funding that is revolving and unsecured and kind of the easiest form of funding you can get as a business owner. You just don't know it's there.
Okay, so let's just say someone was wanting to invest in a property, like they already own their first home and they're wanting to, I'll give you an example. This is my daughter. Okay, so this will be great for her to listen to this. 25 years old, has a good job, bought her first house, kind of turning it into a duplex, and she wants to buy another house as an investment property. So the first thing you would recommend, what would you recommend to someone like that, that first time wanting to get into investing? She grew up since 3 years old in real estate. So it's kind of in her blood, like, like she's super excited about just not flipping, but doing rentals. So what does that work in your model? Someone like that.
Yeah. So I would actually probably use the approach that I use with the BRRRR community. So if you don't know what BRRRR is and you're listening, it's buy, rehab, rent, refinance. So one of the things that real estate investors have learned is it's much easier to refinance a property for long-term funding if you already own the property and have done the renovations and have a renter already in place. So we work really heavily in that community, similar to what she's doing, even if she doesn't call herself a BRRRR, real estate investor. That's what she's doing. So business credit is that's that 3-month process, right? To where she can actually get business credit, actually close on the property, pay for the rehab, get a renter in, and then be ready to be able to refinance it into a better long-term debt that has better interest rate, better terms, and now it's secured by the mortgage. But the first step, what does her personal credit look like? Because this doesn't work if your personal credit is not in the right positioning. Usually, if I get them on the front side, so I get a 25-year-old hasn't done the number one mistake, it's easier. The number one mistake that real estate investors make is they use their personal credit to finance a lot of different things. And by doing that, they're hurting their personal credit. So educating her on separating what I call divorcing yourself from your business and
Yeah.
being able to have her credit in the right positioning. And you don't have to have perfect credit. I'm not saying you have to have an 850 credit score. It's just that it needs to be in the right position. So that's the first thing we would do with someone like her is let's look at it. Let's digest it. Let's make sure you're in the right positioning. Is there anything you need to do to make sure you're ready? Then go through the funding process, get her set up to then learn and be able to purchase her next property on business credit. Get it, if there's any rehab needed, get that rehab done, be able to get renters in there so you can show a stream of income. And now it's much easier to get a mortgage on that property that you already own and already have renters in.
Okay. And they have to be some form of a corporation, right? Or a LLC.
They don't have to be. We can fund a sole prop, but I do not recommend it
Yeah.
because the amount of funding you get will be limited. So LLC, corp, doesn't matter which way you go. Just having a business established with an EIN is required. If it's a sole prop, you can get an EIN for a sole prop. But again, I don't recommend it.
No, because it doesn't protect you and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
So you want the business set up. And
yeah.
we look at that structure as well, because depending on how it was set up, it could be in a risk category also.
Okay, so this is going to be kind of an interesting thing to talk about because you talk about you got to divorce yourself from your personal credit and your business credit. And then, um, how does it work though if you have an LLC? I'm going to use it as my company as an example, but it could be an investment company too, where you have an LLC where you have 17 partners. How does that work?
So you do have to own a certain percentage to be able to use business credit on that business. And anybody who owns a substantial percentage has to be disclosed. It's not co-signing. They don't have to be on the business credit, but they have to be disclosed to the lender that there are these multiple ones.
So there's
So,
your cap table you'd have to give them.
yeah.
Okay.
So, but what I would suggest for someone who has a complex setup like that, right, is I don't know that I would use that business directly for the funding. I
Oh,
might
interesting.
suggest creating a different entity to be able to obtain the funding so it's clean and easy, and then lending money to the other entity with that funding. So there's a couple different ways you can go about it and be creative, because with 17, a little bit complex, a little bit more of a struggle, right, with business credit. But if you actually have another LLC, either whether that we help you create or you already have just for other reasons,
I
it might
do.
be easier to fund that LLC and then let that LLC lend money to the main one so that you're getting that paid back from the company and it's all clean and on paper and good for tax purposes. But obtaining the funding might be easier doing the other one. So we look at all that. That's something that we do on the front side.
Interesting.
We're consulting and looking at. We have so many entrepreneurs who come in with multiple LLCs, multiple corporations, right? So we have to look at what's going to be the best one for funding, because you can only do one at a time because that personal guarantee is attached. You can't do multiple. So you have to do one business at a time.
So then how do you separate then for anybody? How do you divorce yourself from that personal? Because you just said that you have to have that one personal guarantee. So how does
Right.
that work?
So the personal guarantee is how we leverage to get these high lines over for the business. It's not going to report on your personal. It's not going to show up there, but you are having to do a personal guarantee. And listen, I know a lot of entrepreneurs get caught in the weeds with that because for some reason there's a stigma. There's a guy named Dave Ramsey who I think has put that stigma there. However, it's only if it's a default that ever becomes an issue, right? So our goal is never to be funding companies that we think are going to default. Like that's not the goal.
Right.
However, The quickest way to get to non-recourse, non-PG lending is to build these lines first on the PG side. So think of it like when you turned 18 and you had to build your personal credit score. Very similar in the business world, that you have to basically earn your keep, right? You got to show that you're worth that type of lending. And then you also need 5 years in business, typically at least 5 million in annual revenue that you can clearly show before you can even look at that type of lending anyways. um, there are people who are millionaires and still have to PG on a new LLC that they create, right? This isn't something that is abnormal. Now, if you've been in business for a long time and you have the books to show for it, then business credit may not be the first avenue you go into, right? This is for your earlier stage, your startup, your real estate investing, high risk industries, that this works the easiest for. Other companies, it'll be a supplement. They'll still like we don't need business credit. We have other forms of funding we can get access to as Fund&Grow, but we actually still only use business credit to be able to fund the company. We're going to spend it anyways. There's a lot of perks and benefits to using business credit in addition to just having the funding. There's points and rewards and cash back
Yeah.
and all of that. And we're spending the money anyway. So I'm going to spend it on the business credit, get those rewards, and then pay off the credit on out of the cash flow, right? But I'm able to extend my cash flow and keep my cash flow healthier by what I call debt leveraging. So long-term goals can include debt leveraging even for your successful long-term businesses that are seasoned. So it just happens to be like, where are you at? What's the best plan? Fund&Grow's model may work better for certain people, but it also can be a supplement. I have somebody who came to me that was making millions and millions of dollars, but he'd always spent cash for everything and didn't have really anything sitting on his personal credit. So we actually counseled and coached him on, okay, you need to do these steps, because it's not that you don't have good credit, you just don't have any. And you can't
Yeah.
really function that way. And he was running into walls by not having lines on his personal credit, and then came back and actually used Fund&Grow to help his son get started in real estate, because his son was just 18 and didn't have personal credit yet. So there's a lot of different areas that we end up touching in the real estate investing world because of the type of funding we offer.
So what's the motivating factor, you think? Let's just talk about real estate agents. What do you think the motivating factor is for them to really take a serious look at this? Because one of the things that we uncovered in this journey of 7 years, creating an AI app for agents, agents typically, not the top 20%, I'm talking about the other group, typically don't even, I mean, I have requests for people that say, we hate doing bookkeeping. Will you have any suggestions? I had one lady come up to me and said, I have an idea for automating the way real estate agents track their expenses, right? And I'm like, don't give me one more thing to innovate because I'm not doing it. It's so difficult to take technology to agents. And one of the things that we discovered in this journey for 7 years is real estate agents don't want to do anything. They want it done for them. They want to sell. They want the freedom. That I think one of the biggest things is they came into real estate thinking they're going to run a business, they're going to show homes, they're going to sell houses, right? And list homes and do them fun marketing stuff, but they don't realize all the things around it. And we just recently went through a beta doing this. It's called our Real Success program. It's called Real Success Mastery. And our tagline right now is coaches guide you, but we implement and execute. And I think what I want to know for real estate agents, because no, a lot of people, it's a mindset thing, and they have to really dig in, and it's a detail that they don't necessarily want to get into. But why is it necessary, and what do you think that real estate agents should be doing in their business? Because I would love to see this as part of our program, and our real success is taking them through the journey of you guys helping them to set their businesses up right. So take me through the journey of what a real estate agent should do.
So on the actual setting up the actual business, the LLC, the corp, whatever they're doing on that side, that's something that I you need someone who specializes in
Right.
that. We can help set up just for purposes of funding, but anything else, you need to actually have the right services in place. You need to have the right people and tap into their knowledge and wisdom and things like that. So one of the things about real estate, whether it's an investor or an agent, it doesn't matter because I feel like the mindset is very similar no matter what when it's real estate related, is that they're very good at doing a couple of things. And that's what they should focus on. That's what they should do. And that's true for all entrepreneurs. But for real estate, it's that they're really good at finding the deals. They're really good at closing the deals. They're really good at showing, houses. They're really good at, tapping into certain markets or whatever. But what they're not good at is all the ancillary things that need to happen in a circle, whether it's the right services, because if they're not really that great at finding the deals, then they need some kind of service to help them find the deals, right? And there's a good amount of them out there. If they're not good at finding the leads, then they need, so figuring out what they're really good at, and then they need to find the right services to supplement, to feed into them. And the other thing is that for some reason, they don't understand that they have to start building a team underneath them. If they want to be successful, not only do you have the broker conversation, all that, right? That's a totally different conversation on which broker you want to be in and how that works. But how are you, as the real estate agent or investor, going to be successful if you don't start building a team downside, right? On down underneath you. So that team can be services, that team can be, temporary or, fractional work you can find with different agencies or different online, help, searching for that,
Hmm.
like Upwork or whatever. But hiring an assistant, having somebody who actually is able to keep you on track because one thing that you wanted to do was just sell real estate or just invest in real estate. So actually structuring your team, starting to build your team, structuring what services you need. All of that is where I think the real estate industry needs help. And the reason that they typically have a block there is they're like, well, I need to keep getting these deals in order to pay for that. Well, let's find a solution to that. Let's get you some money and some breathing room to be able to use the debt leveraging side to get these services to then amplify your ability to find those deals and close those deals. Because you're only one person, you only have so much time you want to dedicate. Otherwise, you are now working 60, 70 hours a week for yourself. And yeah, that's great, except for the whole purpose was you didn't want to do that. You
Right.
wanted to have the time. Well, the only way to buy back your time is to find out what you're amazing at and only do those couple of things, and then find the right people, services, whatever to do the rest of it. And that's where I think the real estate world lacks, is figuring out that structure. And you're right, coaches can coach. They can coach you all day long. And I think coaches have a great place, but who's going to implement it? What's the services that can actually implement these changes? And sometimes it's people. Sometimes you have to invest in a person to help you then work with those services to implement. Because again, how much time do you want to dedicate to the actual job? And then how much time do you want to buy back to do the family life, the personal life, whatever it is that you're actually that driving force in? So I think that's where Fund and Grow kind of marries those two things. Is we don't provide the services to make you successful. We provide the funding so that you can get the services to make you
I
successful.
know. They don't, and a lot of people don't get it. And so, for example, a lot of CPAs recommend that they get a real estate agent have a S corporation just from the Social Security standpoint, right?
Right. Yep.
And then, of course, real estate investors, a lot of them are more LLC oriented.
Yes.
And so when agents come up to me and just start talking to me about stuff, I say to them, look, you know what? You really need to have a structure outside of just being a sole proprietor.
Yeah.
And you will have tax advantages. Go talk to a CPA about it and hire a bookkeeper, right? And what I see is that we provide a lot of those services. And I'll just give you an example, like you're saying, find out what you're really good at. Some people are great at contract negotiation. They know how to
Right.
read the contract, but then others are horrific at it and they should just get a lawyer and have the lawyer do the drafts and talk. You got to be able to talk in real estate about what the price is, what the house is worth and all that kind of stuff. So you do need to know something. However, there are other things that if they're really good at doing something, they should focus just on that. And I'll give you an example in my own company. We have a marketing manager, and there's 5 people involved in marketing, and we're fairly small still. We're still considered a startup, right? So, um, and we're making revenue. But in order to get to that next level, you got to hire people, you got to train them, and you've got to, everybody's got to work at 10x in my company. And I'll tell you, just the job of a CRM,
Oh, yeah.
managing the CRM is massive. And and real estate agents don't realize it. And actually in the book, The Big Lie that I told you that Mitch Riback wrote, he and I are on the same page on this because agents are on a hamster wheel and they just keep doing all these things and they're trying to succeed. Whereas if they just focus on what they're good at, streamline, there's so much automation now too,
Oh,
to
yeah.
streamline it. And I could really see what you're doing help real estate agents grow their business. So, and you said it right there, is whether they hire an assistant, whether they hire a bookkeeper to help them get that. Because it's amazing how some of these realtors are late at night doing stuff right before October 15th, doing their books to get to the CPA so that they could file their taxes.
Yep.
That is a big problem. I mean, in the industry and in a lot of businesses anyway. I mean, so if I was a real estate agent, what is the first step that I got to do to work with you?
Just call us, first of all, call
Okay.
first and get a consultation. It doesn't cost you anything. Talk to my team to figure out where you can go, right? Because everyone's journey might be slightly different. Everybody's credit's going to be a little different. Everybody's, steps. I always say we can help fund anybody. It just might be that your path and her path can be different, right? So have the free consultation. That's why we provide it. We want you to know ahead of time, A, what we're even doing for you, what your outlook looks like, and what those steps are before you ever pay us, right? Because some people may not be ready to move forward today. They may have a little work they need to do. One of the biggest things I see right now for people is they have a lot of revolving debt sitting on their personal credit. And so there is a threshold for business credit. You have to be, we like it at 35% or lower. It can be at 40. That's okay. We can work with that, right? But if it's higher than that, not only can you not get business credit, but also your personal credit score is very negatively impacted as soon as you go over that 40% mark. So a lot of times we're having to counsel and teach them how to transfer debt, right? Because things are scored differently. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't I don't understand why the credit bureaus do it this way. But let's say that you have $50,000 in personal credit card debt, right? I can have you take that $50,000 and transfer it to a personal unsecured loan, same real style, right? Completely scored differently. I can have you transfer that 50,000 to a personal loan, and now all of a sudden you qualify for business credit, and your credit score after 30 to 45 days is substantially higher because you've moved it off the revolving debt. I don't know why that's the case. It probably has to do with the way the interest rates accrue on credit cards and things like that. But that is something I'm seeing on repeat. The amount of credit card debt on the personal side is very high right now as a US average. But a lot of it has to do with just sometimes it's just that they don't know there's other options. They don't realize that having a personal loan, which is always usually terrible, is usually going to have a lower interest rate than your personal credit card. So sometimes just learning those pieces of what's going on in your personal credit. So get with us. Let us give you that free consultation education to see where you're at and whether this can work for you right now or if you need to do a couple things and come back in a few months. But either way, it doesn't cost anything. We also have a 60-day money back guarantee for anyone who happens to sign up online and doesn't really qualify. We offer that because we can't keep your money if we can't provide our service. So we don't want to. So figure it out and get educated. We also have a credit monitoring company that does all three, and we offer that to our clients at a fair. It's $15.95 a month. It's one of the cheapest ones out there to get all three and be able to understand what's going on in your credit, especially with all the data breaches that have been talked about recently. Like
A
having
lot.
a control on your personal credit, it doesn't just affect your personal, it does affect your business when your person is your business, right? In real estate, you are the business. So that all kind of bleeds into each other if you haven't taken the time to separate it.
So, do you recommend that they have identity theft type people in general? Do you ever talk to anybody about that with the fraud and all the breaches?
I am not a huge proponent of it only because I don't know that it's a necessary expense. I actually would prefer people to put fraud alerts or freezing their credit so that they have control of unfreezing it when they want to use it and having it frozen so that because if someone
Oh,
comes to me
that's a
and their
good idea.
reports, yeah, when their reports are frozen, I tell them, hey, listen, I can't even give you the consult until you unfreeze your report. And you can temporarily unfreeze them for 24 hours, right? Gives me a chance to pull that report. We do a soft pull, it doesn't hurt the credit, but we got to pull it and be able to see. Fraud alerts are great. Make sure that if you're doing a fraud alert, you have your phone number attached to it because that is what helps lenders or people that are facilitating lenders be able to continue to pull your report even if you have a fraud alert by having that phone number. So there's different ways that don't cost you any money. All of the bureaus allow you to freeze and unfreeze. There's no cost to any of that. So, and it's
That's
pretty simple.
interesting.
Yeah.
So, I have fraud alert, and sometimes it's annoying, but because you forget to turn it off and you're on a business trip and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I know that you have to be very aware of it because, but I like that security that, something goes through and maybe you didn't charge that, you know?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
recently actually had a fraud situation and I had to go and redo all of the cards that had automatic billing on it. It drove me nuts, and that's part of the it's part of
Yeah.
the reality of
Yeah.
today.
I
So,
definitely, just a side note, I just definitely have credit monitoring. Have some service. They're very cheap and inexpensive for the most part. It's why we provide one so cheap, is being able to provide it and have those real-time updates. So you can know as soon as someone pulls a report for you or opens a trade line so you can stop it in its tracks before it gets anywhere. So just if you have that, I think that's enough. I mean, those other services can be a little pricey.
okay, so basically what we're looking at here is it's ideal for a real estate agent to have an LLC or S corp, but they could still get an EIN for their sole proprietorship if that's the way they choose to do it, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you can still work with them. There's a consult that they go through that they basically, you probably evaluate their credit reports. What else
Yes.
do you guys do? Like,
Well, we're going to ask them some questions to see, do they already have some business cards? Do they have any banks that, they've had bad relationships with, things like that. We're going to ask some ancillary questions on that upfront consult call. And then once they become a client, we're going to do a full assessment of their business, of their relationships, of the credit pretty much stays the same, but we're going to dive in a little bit deeper in relationships because one thing I tell people is, everyone knows their credit cycles. They're on your credit report for X amount of years, depending on what it is, usually 7 years for most things, 10 years for some things, judgments 20 years, right? So you have all these different things. But even if you're post bankruptcy, right? We had a lot of people go through bankruptcy after 2008 happened, right? That was a very normal thing that a
yeah.
lot of people did in the real estate sector. I understand it. There were no other options. And so that's not showing up anymore. However, if you didn't take the time to rebuild those banking relationships, it's in their database. I can't see that. But if you burned Chase through a bankruptcy and didn't reestablish, Chase is not going to give you any more lending. Like, you have to reestablish those relationships. So we do dive into those types of questions that are outside the credit report that we can't see. So we kind of go into a lot of different pieces because we know what gets approvals and also what gets denials. So we're looking at both sides of that.
So what percentage of people do you have that come to you that you are able to fund? I mean, would you say you have a pretty good success rate?
Oh, if they sign up, we know within 30 days if we're going to be able to get them funding. And that's why we have a 60-day money back guarantee. So success rate of people who come in that are qualified, oh, it's probably 100%. If they're qualified,
Okay.
we're going to get them funding. The level of funding is where that gets gray, right? Because you could have somebody come in that has a 750 credit score, but they have these other things over here. And so they may only get 50,000 on their first round. Somebody else might come in with the same credit score, but they're in good shape everywhere else, and they might get 100,000 on their first round. And I say first round because we do multiple rounds of funding. So the amount of funding and that success is individually determined, because a client who can come in, I can have two clients come in and get the exact same amount of funding, and one thinks it's super successful and one's like, no, that's not enough. So it's all kind of determined by the client and what they're looking for. But we're pretty good at being able to pre-qual and tell you where we think you're going to be at. But our goal is to get everybody to 250,000 in this type of credit by the end of their 12 months with us.
Yeah. And so I'm curious to say that, like, you were saying something in Arizona that sometimes it can take somebody 18 months to through the
Yeah.
whole process. Isn't that correct?
That's for the personal side. So if you come to us and you have, like that millionaire who didn't have any personal credit, and you need us to kind of beef it up, then we'll do what we call a round of personal and then add 6 months on to still allow you 12 months of time to get the business credit. So that's where journeys can take a couple extra steps, but that's where we explain that all in the beginning. We're going to tell you, hey, listen, your credit score is good, but you just don't really have any credit. So we need to build some of that first before we can go to business credit. So that's where that first 6 months can be spent doing that. And then we make the membership 18 months at that point.
Okay. I really like this because no matter what the journey is, whether it takes somebody 6 months, whether it takes them 18 months or 24 months, if you're in the business of being an entrepreneur, being a realtor, being a real estate investment investor, then to me, it's something you should really take seriously and do. And your company is like experts in it. One of our investors in our company, is in Oregon, and she loves the fact that we were talking because she does a lot of her business with real estate investors and helps them. So I'm pretty sure she probably um, has talked to you guys or have sent her clients to you because she is an incredible real estate agent. And she says, "Oh, I'm so excited you're talking to Fund&Grow because they've done so many good things for us." So I think, how can we as our company, because we work with a lot of real estate agents, how can we best get the word out to them? I mean, I know this podcast is going to help give them a little more education and stuff, but what do you think we can do to help them get in front of your people? What can we do to just,
So
I mean,
we have an affiliate program. So that allows us the ability to offer for us to come speak at events, for us to do live webinars, for us to do different, promotional things to try to reach as many people. We provide a lot of assets, marketing assets to our affiliates to be able to provide them with, social media postings, things like that. So it'll all boil down to, how can you reach them? Do you have an email database? Do you have contacts, sitting in your phone and you need to get an email database? We've talked about that a little bit too. No, so it's just a matter of what's going to work. And every relationship's a little bit different. I have people who just put me on their podcast, and that's the best way to get out to people. I have people who just do social media engagements, or they're like a micro influencer, things like that. I have people who have email lists, so really we offer everything possible, and we try to do it as easily for you. We try to give you everything. So I would suggest, just connecting with us and seeing what's going to work best, to be able to not only help yourself, but also educate anyone that you're coming into contact with, to be able to refer us business. I'm sure your friend actually has an affiliate relationship with us if she's referring us business.
yeah, probably.
Yeah, to be able to track the success too. We like our affiliates to know kind of what's going on We put a lot of information out to them. So it's just a matter of what's going to work best for your individual model and what you're doing. The answer for you is a little different than, a real estate agent who just has a database of people in their phone. So it just depends
Yeah.
on what they're doing.
Right. Well, and I also was thinking about some teams we work with that this would be a great team meeting to have you come on and talk
Yep.
to them about it. And, you probably can get it done in like 15, 20 minutes because you got this narrowed, like this is what you need to do. Then, because I don't know if every realtor realizes that a lot of real estate agents use their own personal credit cards for their business.
Yeah. It's the
I've been
number
in the
one
industry
mistake.
17 years,
Yep.
and I know that just what we did in the very beginning. So, I mean, I don't sell real estate anymore, but our group at that time, there was four of us. It was, I think we pretty much never did business credit and then we finally got switched to a sub S corporation because our CPA said, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And so that saved us a lot in taxes. So I think this is really great. I really appreciate your time. I mean, Amanda, so your website is fundandgrow.com.
Yes.
And I really appreciate everything that you've shared with me today. And I know we're going to see a lot more of each other out there and pushing this, but I'm going to bring this to our group. And we actually started something new. It's called School. Have you heard of it?
Yeah. SK. Yeah. The
Yeah,
school.
yeah.
Alex
So
Ramosie's. Yeah.
we created a community now that we've started to build literally this week. It's
Yep.
super fun. We're part of the school games
Yep.
that Alex Homozy
Ramosie.
is
Yeah.
doing. It's super fun, and I'm challenging our real estate agents. So I'm definitely gonna post this there, but plus also in Grit Media. And I'm going to push it out through my CRM and let's get some things going. And
Yeah.
I think it'll be great. I mean, this is going to be a really good thing for real estate agents. And you know what's coming up? Just 2025. I think we're going to see a big reduction in real estate agents. Okay. I just read something today that said, NAR's reporting a 10% reduction. But I think that this is going to elevate real estate. All these changes that are happening and the people that are in the business that are the professionals in 2025 and 2026, they're going to do so well. And this can position them. Everything that we're doing in our business right now is helping people position for what's coming up. Because if you don't have the tools in place and the support in place for your business, you're going to be scrambling. And if you're not doing things now, you're going to play catch up the first quarter, first half of next year.
Yeah.
And this is perfect timing for people to start getting their stuff together so that they can build the support, get the support that they need from having a team, whether they
Yeah.
get the team themselves or whether they go through our Real Success program. Um, they need it. And I think agents know what they need to do. I don't think they need coaching. I mean, coaching is good. I think coaching for me is more mindset.
Yes.
Like, I know what I need to do. It's like, but when you have everything flying at you, having somebody to help you get through keeping that mindset is really important. And keeping you sane, right? I think half the time you could call a coach a therapist, but managing all the
Sure.
things you manage, right? However, I really truly believe that agents need to really, the ones that are, I mean, I see them, they're all on all these different platforms and it drives them crazy. And they need to go. I love what you said. Focus on what you really love and what you're really good at
Yeah.
and get rid of
It's
all the rest.
it's the same principle of leadership and being able to, set up your team and being able to delegate. Delegation is an art in leadership. It's the same thing for an entrepreneur. It's just a different level of delegation. And to quote what's coming, um, there's obviously a lot of things happening. There's a lot of economical things. We're in a political season. There's blah, 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 blah. I was at an event, and to quote Ken McElroy, who's pretty big in the real estate circuit of things, he throws this amazing event that I was at in Dallas. And he said something on stage that I think everyone needed to hear, which was when there's a disruptor, that is actually an opportunity for you to make the best decisions and moves to set yourself up for success. He said that whenever there's been a disruptor, that's where he's made most of his money. And, there was a huge disruptor in 2008, and a lot of people lived through it. I think not the same disruptor, not the same thing, but I think what's happening is this perfect storm of things that's going to lead to that. I don't know how big of an exit, but it's going to lead to an exit of some capacity. You're going to see interest rates do this thing and this weird things happening, whether it's going to keep going up. I think the Fed's going to drop at some point. I know Fed doesn't directly dictate commercial interest rates, but they sure as heck influence it. So I think that this is the start of a huge disruptor, and this is where investors and agents who really want to, buckle down can have the best year next year once this all works its way out.
Well, and also what we need to put in perspective, I think, when it comes to interest rates is, I mean, in my 20s, I bought my first house. I was 21 years old.
What was your
And
interest rate?
I had an opportunity. It was an opportunity. It was a spec house in Dallas. I went to college in Dallas, and I was putting myself through college. And I went 6 years to college at night and worked for Fidelity, all, for that 6 years. And back then, they paid my tuition. Came out of school with a business degree in business analysis and $1,300 in debt. That's it for college debt that I had. And I bought a house because it was just about the same price almost as renting, and there
Right.
was an opportunity. But the builder said to me, he said, the person that was putting the deal together was the last house in the neighborhood that was being sold. And they said, okay, your first 3 years, it's 13% interest. And then it goes down to 9%. And I said, okay, I'm going to be eating macaroni and cheese, but
Yep.
I'm going to do it. And I had zero down. See how clever, like you got to utilize things like that
Yeah.
to do things like that. And I think people need to understand interest rates,
They're
it's
not at historic
relative.
highs. They're not, I don't know why. I think it's the generational issues of they've never lived through that, right? I bought my first house at 20 and still in college, similar story. It was here in the Tampa Bay area. And it was a spec house, and it was a first-time home buyer program with Bank of America, zero down, which was great. And my interest rate, I think, was like 7%, which I thought was amazing at the time. And I look now and I have an interest rate that's like under 3% because I'm one of those people that's never going to sell my house because of that now. I think what actually happened is we had historic lows that we went through,
Yes,
and people are
exactly.
not adjusting to the correction the right way. But also, there's an amazing guy named Jason Hartman that has an amazing analysis that can show you the value of the dollar and the interest rates, and actually show you that this isn't actually the market you think it is if you actually look at the history, the value of the dollar, the value of interest rates, and all of that. So I think all of that has to kind of play its way out, and that's what we're seeing happen is people starting to understand that what we're really seeing is the market self-correcting after historic lows, which
Right.
happened because of the market correcting over here at all the different, craziness that happened. So you're just kind of seeing everything get corrected, but a lot of people are newer and don't understand that.
Yeah. Well, and also the real estate agents, they do need to go back and look at the histories because
Yes.
we are at a 1993 low, I
Yeah.
mean, of transactions,
Yeah.
but we're not going to stay there.
No.
And there's never been a time ever in the history where everybody just said, no, I'm never buying a piece of real estate and I'm never selling. I mean, just it's unheard of. So, but I do think the opportunity is absolutely fantastic for the next generation, I would say, of realtors.
Yep.
So, okay. So I want to say thank you very much. It
You're
was really
welcome.
good. And I'll be in touch.